Hey everyone, welcome back to Chill English Talks. I'm Edward.
And I'm Marie. So happy you're here with us today.
Today, we have a really useful episode for you. We're going to talk about one small word that appears everywhere in English conversations.
Everywhere, like genuinely everywhere. Once you notice it, you can't stop noticing it.
The word is actually.
Such a small word, only 3 syllables, but it does so much work in a conversation.
It really does, and a lot of English learners know this word, but they're not always sure how to use it naturally.
Right. Some people think it only means in fact, and sometimes that's true, but in real, everyday English, actually has a few different jobs.
It can correct information politely, it can introduce something surprising, and sometimes it just makes a sentence sound more natural and relaxed.
Like a little social tool that keeps conversations smooth.
Exactly. So today, we're going to walk through all of those uses with simple, real examples, the kind of sentences you'd actually hear in daily life.
And we'll keep the English clear and easy to follow. This episode is great for B1 learners, that's intermediate level. But if you're a strong beginner, please stay with us. You'll understand more than you think.
Just relax, listen, and let the examples do the work. You don't need to catch every word, just feel the rhythm of the language.
And before we jump in, if this podcast is helping your English, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps other learners find us.
We also have a little comment challenge for today. After you listen, write in the comments, one thing that actually surprised me recently was... Just finish that sentence in English. It's great practice, and we genuinely love reading your answers.
Okay, let's start with the first and most common job of the word actually, correcting information politely.
Yes, in English, when someone says something that isn't quite right, you don't want to just say, "No, you're wrong." That sounds a little harsh.
A little aggressive, yeah.
So instead, native speakers often use actually to soften the correction. It makes it sound friendly, not confrontational.
Let's hear a simple example. 2 friends are talking about the weather. One friend says, "It looks like it's going to rain all day today."
The other friend checks the weather app and replies, "Actually, it's going to be sunny this afternoon."
See how that works? The second friend is correcting the first friend, but it doesn't sound rude. It sounds helpful.
The word actually carries the message, "I have different information and I'm sharing it kindly."
Let's try another one. 2 coworkers are in the office. One says, "The meeting starts at 3 o'clock, right?"
The other coworker checks the calendar and says, "Actually, the meeting starts at 2:30.
Small correction, very polite, very natural.
And notice, the person doesn't say, "No, you're wrong, it's 2:30. They just say, "Actually," and give the right information. The correction is built into the sentence automatically.
Let's do one more correction example. 2 friends are talking about a colleague. One friend says, "I heard Sarah moved to another city."
The other friend shakes their head gently and says, "Actually, she moved to a different neighborhood, but she's still in the same city."
Again, no drama, no argument, just a gentle correction introduced by actually.
This is one of the most useful things about this word. It lets you disagree or correct someone without making the conversation feel uncomfortable.
In many cultures, correcting someone directly can feel awkward, but actually is like a little cushion. It softens the landing.
I love that, a cushion for corrections.
Okay, so that's the first use, polite corrections. Now let's talk about the second use, which I find even more interesting.
Surprising information?
Yes, sometimes actually introduces something the listener didn't expect, something that goes against their assumption.
And this happens all the time in real conversations. Someone assumes something about you, and you gently reveal that the reality is different.
Let's hear an example. 2 friends are having coffee. One friend says, "You probably don't like spicy food."
The other friend laughs and says, "Actually, I love spicy food. The spicier the better."
The listener made an assumption. The speaker uses actually to introduce the surprising truth.
And notice how natural it sounds. Not defensive, not dramatic, just here's the real answer.
Let's try another one. Someone is talking about their morning routine. A friend says, "I guess you sleep in on weekends."
The person smiles and replies, "Actually, I wake up earlier on weekends than on weekdays."
That might genuinely surprise the friend.
It surprised me a little just reading it, but it's a perfect example of actually introducing unexpected information.
Here's another good one. Two coworkers are chatting. One says, "You must live really far from the office."
The other coworker replies, "Actually, I live about 10 minutes away. I can walk here."
The first coworker assumed one thing. The reality was completely different, and actually introduces that gap between assumption and reality.
That gap is exactly where actually lives. It's a word that bridges what someone thought and what is really true.
Beautifully said. Okay, let's do a few more examples with surprising information before we move on.
Sure. Here's one about hobbies. A friend says, "You probably spend most of your evenings watching TV."
The other person replies, "Actually, I spend most evenings painting. I've been doing it for about 3 years now."
And suddenly, the conversation gets more interesting. The listener learns something new. Maybe they ask a follow-up question.
That's another thing actually does. It opens the door to more conversation. It invites curiosity.
Here's one more. Someone is talking about a new restaurant in the neighborhood. A friend says, "That place looks really expensive."
The other person replies, "Actually, the prices are very reasonable. I went last week and it wasn't expensive at all."
Good news for everyone who wants to try it.
Yes, and that's exactly how people talk in daily life. Small corrections, small surprises, all wrapped in that one comfortable word.
Okay, so we have two uses so far: polite corrections and surprising information. Now let's talk about a third use that's a little more subtle.
This one is interesting because it's not really about correcting or surprising. It's more about softening, making a sentence sound more natural and less blunt.
Right. Sometimes actually works as a kind of conversational cushion. It makes what you're saying sound more thoughtful, more relaxed.
For example, imagine someone asks you, "Do you want to come to the party on Saturday?"
And you're not sure. You think for a second, and then you say, "Actually, that sounds really nice. I'd love to come."
See, you could say, "Yes, I'd love to come." That's fine, but adding "actually" makes it sound like you genuinely considered it. It feels more real, more warm.
It's like the word adds a tiny moment of thought before the answer, a little pause that says, "I'm being honest here."
Let's try another one. Someone asks, "How was the movie last night?"
And the person replies, "Actually, it was really good. I didn't expect to enjoy it so much."
Without "actually," the sentence still works, but with it, it sounds more natural, more conversational, more like how real people talk.
Here's another example. A manager asks an employee, "How are you feeling about the new project?"
The employee thinks for a moment and says, "Actually, I'm feeling quite good about it. I think the team is ready."
Again, it adds that thoughtful quality. It signals honesty, like the person really considered the question before answering.
This is why native speakers use "actually" so often. It's not always about correcting or surprising. Sometimes it's just a natural part of how English flows in conversation.
It fills a space between thinking and speaking, and it makes the speaker sound more authentic.
Okay, now let's look at some slightly longer examples, small stories where "actually" appears naturally. This will help you see the word in context.
Great idea. Here's a short one. A person is talking about their first day at a new gym.
The person says, I was really nervous before going. I thought everyone would be very serious and intimidating.
But then the person continues, actually, everyone was really friendly. A few people even came to say hello and offer to help.
That contrast between expectation and reality, that's the classic actually moment.
Here's another one. A student is talking about a difficult exam.
The student says, I studied for 3 weeks and I was really worried the morning of the exam.
Then the student smiles and says, actually, the exam was much easier than I expected. I finished early.
Great feeling, right? When something you worried about turns out to be fine.
The word actually carries that relief, that pleasant surprise.
Here's one more short story. 2 friends are talking about a trip one of them just took.
One friend asks, how was the trip? Was it stressful with all the traveling?
The other friend replies, actually, everything went really smoothly. The flights were on time, the hotel was lovely, and the weather was perfect.
Sometimes life works out better than you planned, and actually is how you announce that in English. Okay, now let's do something a little different. Let's look at some common mistakes people make with actually and how to avoid them.
Good idea, because using it well is one thing, but using it too much or in the wrong place can sound a little strange.
Exactly. The first thing to watch out for, don't use actually to start every single sentence.
Right, if you say actually 5 times in 2 minutes, it starts to sound a little overwhelming. The word loses its effect.
It's most powerful when it appears at the right moment, when there's a real correction, a real surprise, or a real shift in the conversation.
Think of it like a small spotlight. You don't point a spotlight at everything. You use it when something deserves attention.
Great way to think about it. Second thing, actually works best at the beginning of a sentence or right before the main information.
For example, actually, I prefer tea. That's natural. Or, I actually prefer tea. That's also fine.
But if you put it at a strange place in the sentence, it can sound awkward. So just keep it at the front or close to the main verb and you'll be fine.
And the third thing, the tone matters. Actually works well when you say it in a calm, friendly tone, not aggressive, not sarcastic.
Because in some contexts, if you say actually with a sharp or impatient tone, it can sound rude, like you're annoyed at the person for being wrong.
So keep it light, keep it warm, and it will always land well.
Okay, let's do one final round of examples before our vocabulary review. This time, let's mix all the uses together, corrections, surprises, and natural softening.
Perfect. Here we go. Example 1. 2 friends are talking about a book.
One friend says, I heard that book is really difficult to read.
The other friend smiles and says, actually, I found it quite easy to follow. The author writes very clearly.
Correction of an assumption, friendly, natural. Example 2. A coworker says, you must really hate Mondays.
The other coworker laughs and replies, actually, I don't mind Mondays. I kind of like the fresh start feeling.
Surprising information goes against what the listener expected. Example 3. Someone asks, was the new cafe good?
The person thinks for a moment and says, actually, it was really lovely. The coffee was excellent and the atmosphere was so calm.
Soft, natural, actually, makes the answer feel genuine and thoughtful. One more. A friend asks, are you nervous about the presentation tomorrow?
The person pauses and replies, actually, I feel pretty good about it. I've practiced a lot this week.
Calm, honest, natural. That's actually at its best. Okay, before we close, let's do a quick vocabulary review. We used some useful words today that are worth keeping.
Yes, let's do a little word tour. First word, assumption.
An assumption is something you believe is true without checking it first. You just assume it.
For example, she made an assumption that he didn't like coffee, but actually, he loves it. You assumed something without asking.
Next word, correction.
A correction is when you fix something that was wrong or not quite right. You give the right information.
For example, he made a gentle correction when she said the meeting was at 3. Actually, it was at 2:30. Polite, helpful, clear.
Next, assumption and correction go together beautifully with actually.
When you have an assumption and you need to give a correction, that's exactly where actually appears. Next useful word, contrast.
Contrast means the difference between two things, usually something expected versus something real.
For example, there was a big contrast between what she expected and what actually happened. She thought it would be stressful, but actually it was wonderful.
And our last word for today, subtle.
Subtle means something small, not obvious, not loud, hard to notice right away.
For example, the difference was subtle. You had to listen carefully to notice it. Or, the word actually has some subtle uses that many learners don't know about.
And by the end of this episode, you know all of them.
You really do. Okay, let's bring everything together. Today, we looked at 3 main uses of the word actually.
Number 1, polite corrections. When someone has the wrong information and you want to gently give the right information without sounding rude.
Number 2, surprising information. When the reality is different from what the listener assumed, and you want to introduce that gap.
Number 3, natural softening. When you want your sentence to sound more thoughtful, more honest, more like real conversation.
And we looked at what to avoid, using it too often, putting it in the wrong place, or saying it with the wrong tone.
The best way to get comfortable with actually is to notice it when you listen to English. Podcasts, TV shows, movies, conversations. It's everywhere.
Every time you hear it, ask yourself, which job is it doing right now? Is it correcting, surprising, softening?
And then try using it yourself. Start small, just one sentence today, maybe in the comments.
Speaking of which, your comment challenge for today is, one thing that actually surprised me recently was... Finish that sentence. Write it below. Practice your English and share something real.
We read all of them, and we love seeing how different everyone's answers are. It always makes us smile.
Okay, my friends, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. You are doing something really good for yourself every time you practice.
Keep listening, keep noticing, and keep coming back. Your English grows a little more every single time.
This was Chill English Talks. I'm Marie.
And I'm Edward. Take care, keep going, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.